if Sojin was a zombie and she bit me, like, I would just embrace it and let what was going on go on. Hey guys, it's KpopSteve here, and I watched Train to Busan recently. And as I'm a film student, as many of you may or may not know, and it's a Korean film, I thought, hey, why don't I do a review of it? I checked on KpopSteve's chat lounge, and a lot of you seem interested, so why not? I watched a few Korean films, not that many. Old Boy by Park Chan-wook is one of my favourite films of all time, top 3 of all time. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Like, just don't look it up, it'll spoil it. Just go watch it, yeah. Then with Train to Busan, it was actually in the Cannes Film Festival, which is like a famous film festival for film nerds, and I was like, oh, interesting, a Korean film. Now, I saw a lot of my friends watching on Instagram recently, so I was like, hey, I'm just gonna go and give it a watch. So with this review, the first part will just be no spoilers and free, and then I'll give you a warning when the spoilers come in the second part, just so you know. I hate spoilers, like spoilers one of the things that ruins things for me, so don't worry, I'll warn you if there's spoilers. So a father played by Gong Yoo is a CEO and who's very busy, and he decides to take his daughter to Busan for her birthday wish, as she's always been wanting to go. But as they get on the train, oh no, a massive zombie outbreak happens around Korea, and now they're stuck on this train and they to Busan, and they can't get off. So yeah, and Sohee, who was in Wonder Girls, is actually in the film as well, which I didn't know. So it's cool seeing her in there. There we go, that's some K-pop for you. K-pop, yeah, see, KpopSteve, yeah. And I really enjoyed it. When the film was trying to create suspense, it actually worked really well, I feel. And although sometimes you kind of know if they will survive or if they won't survive a situation, you still weren't 100% sure. So I think that was the main draw of it, that you just weren't sure a lot of the time. And for me, my guilty pleasure in films is there's good twists, and it really did have that in here. And obviously there's a lot of zombies, and they're choreographed by a dance crew, which I think is really cool. And I think the zombies do move really well, and they're like fast as hell for the zombies, which is always a bit more entertaining than, you know, just slow zombies not doing much. I was really happy at first that it wasn't all on a train. Like, that was the thing I was worried about, like, oh god, it's just gonna be all on the train. But then I realized the best bits of the film were on the train. So like the first kind of, you know, 15 minutes before they get on, I found it a bit slow and it took a while. And then later on in the film, when they're not on the train, it just gets a bit Michael Bay-ish. Like, here's an explosion, here's fire, here's all this special effects, and it ruined the suspense because it was becoming more of an action film than a thriller, and not in a bad way, but just not that great of an action film compared to the really great thriller that it was before. Also, like most zombie films or video games, like, there's always some why would you do that moment, but there wasn't too many in here, which was good. They only really happened to characters where you're supposed to dislike them, where you're just like, why? And you get angry about it, but like, it's deliberate because you're not supposed to like those characters, so it did work in that sense. The themes of like selfishness and selflessness, oh, that's a hard word, were present in here, as they are in any film about, you know, zombies or just survival in general. But I think they portrayed it really well here in, you know, the different character dynamics. But the only problem I have in Korean films is that sometimes the characters have more of a sudden change and a gradual change, and it's just a different way to write characters. They would have a sudden moment and then they'll just be like, alright, I'm completely different now. Whether in a lot of other films, like, there's a gradual change in the character as they get more and more, you know, resistant to change, or they're getting less and less resistant to change. You know, in a lot of Korean films I see, they just go, alright man, cool, I'm done. So it's just a different way, but it did work, but it's just a different way that I'm not sure if I like that much. But overall, I've seen a lot of zombie films, and I feel like it was a really fresh idea on the, you know, on the genre. Although I have heard Snowpiercer, which is by a Korean director as well, is very similar, because it's, you know, people stuck on a train, which as soon as I heard that, I was like, alright mate, basically the same. But I haven't seen it, so I don't know if you guys would recommend that. Tell me, I haven't seen it. It's definitely a spectacle, and as I said, I love films with twists, and good twists always make me go, yeah boy. And I'll definitely recommend giving it a watch if you like thrillers or just like cool looking zombies. And it was very intense, like the suspense gets you at times, and sometimes I was, I don't want to say it, but on the edge of my seat, where I was just like, oh, what's gonna happen? And, you know, that kind of excitement is what I like from films. Although there was some downsides to it, as I said, it was still good. Okay, so now we're gonna get into details, so there may be some spoilers here, so go and watch the film. Just pause it for a sec. Go and watch the film, then come back and finish the rest of the video. You know you want to. Yeah, I'm gonna get in some spoiler-roonies here. Just so you know, as a film student, I'm mainly into writing and directing. That's kind of what I want to get into, but obviously I can still comment on other things, because that's, you know, that's what I do. So firstly, cinematography. I read an interview with Sang-ho Young, the director, it's probably pronounced completely wrong, that he wanted to avoid too many cuts, and I think it really paid off, because in a lot of action films or, like, you know, horrors or thrillers, they just because they want to try and keep it intense. And they also, you know, it saves money sometimes because it's like you don't have to show as much. But I think it worked well here because the longer shots draw you more into the scene and make it a bit more, you know, intense, I'd say. So you're actually there with them. And this really worked for the scenes where it was the three dudes, the husband, the baseball guy, and, you know, our guy, is it Sek? What's his name? Sokwu, there we go. Probably pronounced pretty wrong too. They were like my favourite scenes in the film, and like the longer cuts of like the fights like worked really well. There were still cuts, but there was sometimes where the shot was a bit longer, and it's like, yeah, it makes it much more intense, and I prefer longer shots. Obviously, if you've seen Old Boy, the fight scene in Old Boy, oh, and also there were some GoPro shots in there as well, and like a YouTube phone shot as well, which is just a little touch there. They were like, yeah, we did this. I'm like, oh, you know, it was alright. But the cinematography I did think was good. Special effects, I thought the zombies looked really good. Like, some people said they looked a bit cheesy, but you know, you can't really take zombie films too seriously just because of the nature of them. So I thought the zombies were done well. However, the special effects in general got a bit too much towards the end, with like the train crashing, the fire, the ridiculous amount of zombies just piling up on top of each other, which was a bit of a joke. And like, you know, the train about to fall on them, and they're like, ah! I'm like, it's a bit too much, I think. And it looked a bit stupid, and it becomes more comedic with the zombies like running, you know, on top of each other. With zombie films or horror films, it's not always about adding more as it goes on and making it more intense that way. It's more like, you know, the whole what you don't see is more intense. So there's the film called The Boy, which is a horror film, and it's not a zombie film, and it's definitely not the best film I've seen, but that does it really well by keeping it simple with, you know, the fear, and making the fear of it, you know, not too intense and crazy. And the original Evil Dead, which I watched recently, it keeps itself grounded in like the, you know, the fear of like, you know, the zombies in it. It doesn't like, you know, multiply them by loads, or there's another massive, you know, fear. It just keeps it grounded, which I like. However, I'll always praise the effort for the amount of cast you have to have for these train scenes, like all the train station scenes where there's so many of them. I can't imagine having to direct so many people, so like I really appreciate that. I thought the plot was good for the most part, but now we're in spoiler town, you know, we can get straight into it. So the first 14 minutes, it felt like it took like hours to get on the train. Like I really wasn't feeling the emotions for the first 14 minutes in. I was kind of a bit like, oh, alright, show me these zombies. But it did pay off later when they were on the train, and like definitely towards the end where the emotions were running wild. So like setting up the song that she was singing, like, oh man, that hit so hard at the end when she was singing it. Like I was getting like emotional, bro. I was like tearing up. And I thought the sacrifices of like the selfish and selflessness were done well. There were a couple character issues, but the twists really did get me in the plot of like, I wasn't sure he was going to die, which was good. I had no idea the amount of people who were going to die, and they started just, you know, killing a lot of people, which was, you know, I like it when films don't feel too attached to their characters that they can just throw them away. So it's not like in a lot of anime, for example, where you just know people aren't going to die because they're the main characters, you know what I mean? However, the only thing was once they were bitten, I was like, alright bruv, they're dead. So you're just kind of waiting for them to die in a bit. Like all the anticipation of them, you know, like trying to survive was just like gone. And it was going in more into the emotional route, but the actual intensity of if they're going to get bitten or not. But then once they were bitten, it's like, oh, they're going to die. So I guess there's a problem with zombie stuff, because obviously in other films, you know, if they get shot, they're dead, boom, like done. But if it's like, you know, they've been bitten and you're just waiting for them, you know, so it's like, you know. But then the end, as I said, the end did get me so good. Like, I did not know if the two were going to get killed. Like, fuck, man, they could have been killed because of the situation. I was actually like... And there's one stupid zombie thing, you know, when in a film you're like, why would you do that? And it was the, they should have used... it ended up not mattering, but when they were climbing on top of the train shelves, they could have just used the phone technique again, hid in the toilet, through the phone, and then they would have went, bagoosh, right? But I guess there were too many of them not to be loud, but still it was like, the phone technique would have probably been a bit more efficient. I don't know. Just me? I don't know. Maybe. They should have just done that again. The characters. So the characters I did think were good, but sometimes they're a bit hit and miss. Like the tramp, like... What was the tramp about? Like, there was nothing really explained about the tramp, like, not even a name. Like, when he died, I was just like, oh. I thought maybe the pregnant woman might have been like, oh, what's your name? I'll call my second baby that or something, or rather. But, like, the connection with the tramp was a bit weird. Like, why was he, like, there all day? Like, that wasn't really explained, to be honest. And I hated this guy. I can't even remember his name, but I absolutely hated this guy with a passion. And we're supposed to, though. And, like, his recklessness... like really stressed me out. But like, when a film stresses you out like that, it shows that you are involved and it does annoy you. That's why I like it. That's why I like loads of anime where it's really like stressful, because it's like, that stress is like, ugh, but it shows that it's doing what it's supposed to. So it did work well. And with all the villains as well, like, you can't really blame them for acting like that some of the time. Like, especially when you're in that scenario, you like, it is very every man for themselves. So it's like, what do? You know, like, do you look after yourself, or, you know, do you look after other people? Like, and that's what the whole film was about. And I did think, although sometimes they did seem out of line, like, you can't blame people for that. I don't know. But I still think that worked well. Kim Dae-lee, I think his name was, or like the analyst guy who was on the phone to our boy, worked well as like a separate point of contact, because it's good to have like something from the outside world if you're stuck in that train. However, the whole "it was our fault" thing, I didn't really get. Like, and that was a bit silly. Like, there was a fire that started off in their building, but it's like, why did that start that? Like, I didn't really get that. Maybe I missed something, but it's like, especially like Sik-woo was like, our main character, I can't pronounce the name. Like, he saw his place on fire and he was like, I guess we're going to Busan. Like, no, you'd stop and ring and be like, yo, why is our building on fire? That's my actual job. So that was a bit weird that they just threw away like that, but, you know, whatever. And as the film wanted, I really turned around on the couple, and I think the couple, the pregnant lady and the husband, I think they are my favourite characters throughout. Their dynamic and then their dynamic with the rest of the cast, I thought worked so well. The baseball kid did annoy me when he couldn't beat the shit out of his friends, and he didn't even end up turning around and beating the shit out of friends. He was that much of a pussy. So I guess they wanted to keep him as a pussy. But then, you know, the husband was just like, boo, bagoosh, and I was like, yeah, boy, beat the shit out of them. Themes, as I said, don't be selfish, I guess. And I guess Suk-woo ended up making the ultimate sacrifice at the end of the film, you know, by dying, you know, letting his child live. So that was, I guess, what he was trying to do. And it was a very basic premise, but people got what was coming to them, I guess. Like, the people who are more selfish, like, say, you know, our main prick here, like, he did eventually get what was coming to him. Even with, like, Sohee, he was just like, nope, see you later. And I was like, man, that's so deep. But also, like, the scene where, like, the old woman let all the zombies in showed that as well. And although it was a bit stupid, you kind of saw it coming, where she was just like, hey, friend, you know, all these people are selfish, let's let them die. Like, it felt good. You're like, yeah, screw you, because, you know, you were so involved. Oh, because I love the husband. I really like the husband. And, like, you know, I was like, yeah, good. So, you know, it did, you know, play on your emotions of, like, who you liked, whose side you were on, but you couldn't blame them. So it's like all the decisions seemed justified in a sense. So, in a weird way, I guess. But, like, the ending was like, whoa, man. That was good, that was good. Overall, I enjoyed it. I try not to take it too seriously, because it was a zombie film. And as most things are exaggerated in zombie films, but I did think it was a good twist on the genre, and they were able to scale it down, so it's like, you know, a little microcosm of society. Hey, nice English GCSE phrase there, but a little microcosm of society in just that one train of like the different aspects, which was good. And although they were like looking at the screens, they were still taken away from the outside world and still freaking out, which works. And it's very similar to The House in 28 Days Later. If you haven't seen that film, that's a great film. But yeah, that's it for Train to Busan. Overall, enjoyed it, and hopefully you've now watched it and haven't just spoiled yourself completely by watching this review. But put your thoughts down below of what you thought of Train to Busan if you've seen it. Like, did you like it or did you not like it? Like, what were your good and bad points about it? Because that's kind of what I went over. Also, if you guys want more film reviews, I'm actually down for doing them. Just tell me how to improve down below, because, you know, it's my first film review, so I was kind of a bit like, what do I even say? But I tried to plan as much as I can, but I wasn't really sure. And also, recommend me some films, or even like dramas. I haven't watched any Korean dramas properly. Yeah, guys, I know that's something I shouldn't have said, but I actually haven't. So put some films or dramas down below that you'd recommend for me, and I'm up for doing reviews of them 100%. Like, yeah, why not? If you haven't seen my most recent challenge videos, go and check them out, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. But like, if Sojin was a zombie, what would I do? Like, I don't know, man. I'd definitely have to think about that.